Welcome to Interconnected with Jordan. I'm your host, Jordan Saunders, and today we are going to be exploring a conversation about technology, communication, and the power of innovation to change lives. This episode is for you if you are a tech enthusiast, curious about how mobile apps can transform healthcare. Maybe you're a speech therapist or caregiver looking for new ways to support individuals with aphasia or dementia. Or maybe you're a parent, educator, or advocate interested in how assistive technology is reshaping communication accessibility. Our guest today has seamlessly blended technology and speech therapy to make a lasting impact. David is a senior iOS software engineer with over 12 years of experience developing high-performance mobile applications. But he is beyond his tech career. He is also the creator of Omilía, a groundbreaking speech therapy app designed to support individuals with aphasia and dementia, including his own mother-in-law. What began as a deeply personal project has since grown into a tool helping thousands worldwide. Today, we'll explore David's journey, the intersection of tech and speech therapy, and how innovation is breaking barriers in communication. David, I would love to start by hearing about your journey. You're a software engineer. What led you to create Omilía, a speech therapy app?
There is a lot to unpack there. No, first, thanks for having me on the show. I feel very humbled to be here, and just very kind of you to extend that invite to me. It's like crazy where life takes you, right? If you would have, did you know 10 years ago you would be doing this show? I didn't. I mean, if you would have told me I'd be here talking to you 10 years ago, I thought you had the wrong person, to be honest with you. It's amazing where life takes you. And it's led me to, as you said, a software engineer with Omilía, working with people who have aphasia. So rewind a little bit. I don't want to spend too much of myself, but most of my life I've been a dedicated golfer, actually, believe it or not. So I played golf in college. I turned pro for a short stint after college, and I thought I was going to be on the PGA Tour beating Tiger Woods. And that obviously didn't happen. I'm not as good as Tiger. He's pretty good. But yeah, so I basically had to find, after that, what am I going to do with my life? And it led me to tech one way or the other. I got a job out of college as a recruiter. I learned the lingo. And by virtue of connections, like this podcast is called Interconnected. It's all about who you know and your connections and your networking, I think. So, but one way or the other, I worked my way up into software. I got in as a business analyst and product management and product owner. And then 7 years ago, I found this desire that came out of nowhere to build things. I had never had that before. I couldn't change a light switch, 15 years ago. And for whatever reason, I wanted to learn how to build. I had curiosity in how these apps were created. So I took it upon myself to learn. I just taught myself how to develop iOS apps. And shortly within the first year, I pushed my first app to the store. It was called Choice. It wasn't that great, but it taught me a lot of great things. And, by virtue of more apps, I caught the attention of some software engineering managers who, put me into doing this professionally. And I haven't looked back. I love creating. I love being a visionary and executing on that vision. It's a tremendous passion of mine. So Omilía, what led to Omilía is another story. So 2020 came rolling around. 2020 was a rough year for everybody, right? 2020 was particularly tough for our family. My mother-in-law suffered a stroke in 2020, early in January. And that it was pretty bad. They had to flight for life her to a hospital, and she almost didn't make it. Thank God she's still here. But it led to her having a condition called aphasia. And I didn't know what it was. I had never heard of the term aphasia at the time, didn't know what it was. But, it was basically where you lose the ability to communicate. It could be very severe, like my mother-in-law's case was pretty severe, or less severe. But I saw, I saw her struggling, and I saw her in her recovery, and I just wanted to help her, honestly. So I thought I could use my skills that God had given me to help her. And it was really just as simple as that. Honestly, I just wanted to create an app. And it started out with a very simple concept of showing an image and pressing a button and speaking that image, and it told you if it was right or wrong. And it's blossomed from there. Now it's on the App Store. It's the Patient app. It's been out there for a few years now. You can go and download it today. I think it's helped a lot of people. I hope, though. That's the goal, right? The goal of this app ultimately is to help people. Like, there's a lot of KPIs, key performance indicators for mobile apps to make money. My personal KPI of this app, how many people can we help? So that's the origin story of Omilía.
I love that. And I'm glad you told everything too leading up, because so many times we only see the finished product. We don't see the behind the scenes and the passion that's driving things forward. So thank you for sharing not only your journey, but also your story connected to your mother-in-law and what drove you to create this app. I wanted to ask you too, where are you located for anyone that's listening?
I'm in the middle of the country. I'm in Colorado, just south of Denver. A little town called Castle Rock.
Awesome. And then you mentioned about aphasia, and what would you say are how does Omilía bridge these gaps, and what makes it different from other speech therapy tools? Because you mentioned that if someone has aphasia, they have difficulties communicating.
So, I mean, early on, when I was looking at what my mother-in-law was doing, whether it was in the urgent care or emergency room shortly after a stroke or in speech therapy sessions, I saw some outdated. I mean, I don't want to say anything's bad. Everything's good right out there. Like, it's meant to help you. But I saw some outdated stuff that I thought we could use a refresher a little bit. I saw an opportunity to make it something better. Like, pieces of paper where you draw the image to the word and things like that. I was like, we're in 2020. Like, how is this not more of a digital type thing, right? And I saw the app. There's apps out there. They're good apps, but in some cases, I was confused on how to use them. To be honest with you, like, I'm a software guy. I know apps. I develop apps, but I was looking at these things and I'm like, I don't know what to do. How does someone with aphasia, who potentially not even understand the words on the screen, know what to do? And I felt kind of like, man, there's a gap here. I feel like I could make something a little bit better. So that's been the goal, is to create a better user experience for people. So it's almost like if you were to download an app and it was in Chinese, I don't know, maybe you do speak Chinese, but I don't speak Chinese. And for it to be intuitive, to understand exactly what it is that you need to do, like that's the goal. It's been an incredibly difficult challenge, and I think we might talk about that later. But create a user experience that's intuitive and familiar for people that may not understand what they're even looking at. That's been my goal, and what could help separate Omilía from some other tools that are also good products, but other tools in the market.
Yeah, I loved how you described that. I'm thinking, when you talked about user experience, someone may have a great idea and they may build it based on their idea or what they think should be implemented into the market. I like how you built this with your mother-in-law. As you made changes and added things, you were building not only with her, you didn't build on behalf of her or build things that you thought would be really important to incorporate. It seems like, from what you said, you've been building it with her, which I think is huge, because it's user-centered and really focused on making sure that experience really does align with the community that you're wanting to serve.
One other thing too is, like, people, I've never had aphasia, so I can't pretend to, pretend to say that I know everything, because I don't. I've been in someone's shoes like that, but I've talked to people who have, and it's a tough time, right? I mean, your life gets turned upside down, whether it be from a stroke or a traumatic brain injury or whatever the case might be. Uh, it's tough, right? And it's kind of seems hopeless potentially at the time. Like, man, my world just disappeared. If this app, it's meant to help recuperate and help people recover from their stroke, but there's a second purpose too, is to give them hope, right? It's weird to say like an app giving hope, right? It's like this kind of lifeless thing, but I want it to be full of life. I want it to spring life and say, there is still hope in your journey here. Like, you're not done yet, right? I want it to be encouraging. You'll never see in Omilía, you'll never see I'm wrong, incorrect, right? It's always an encouraging, like, let's try again or something like that. That might be my biggest desire of this app. If it does anything in this world, I want it to give hope to people.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
It's also a reminder that those small details really can impact that experience. I want to switch gears a little bit, and you may have known that I was going to ask this question. So, as a speech language pathologist, Omilía is called a speech therapy app. So, my question is it designed to replace therapy or to extend its impact beyond sessions?
Yeah. Thanks for asking that question, Jordan. No, it is not meant to replace speech therapy. Definitely not, right? So I said I was a golfer before, right? I would go get golf lessons. I would practice in between golf lessons. And if I didn't, my instructor would be like, why didn't you practice? Like, I don't see any improvement in you, right? Between the last session and this session. So in this case, the instructor is like a speech therapist in my world. It's like, go, you have these amazing people who are trained professionals to help you in your recovery. Like, this is not meant to replace that whatsoever. It's meant to supplement that and to help you in between your sessions, and to get you from one place to the next, right? So I kind of envision the patient app, and we'll talk about this later. There's another component to this, the therapist app, which I'm super excited about. But the patient app is like, I have a vision, like, you could either use it in session if therapists want to do that. It's not necessarily designed for that. It's more designed for someone with aphasia and potentially a caregiver at home, in a home type setting. But I envision someone sitting on the couch in between their, during the week, just a random Wednesday night. And like, I'm just going to practice. And like, that's what my mother-in-law does. She still opens it up every day. She still uses it to this day. And, sits on the couch and practices speech. Then when she gets to her next speech therapy session, she's seeing just that little incremental improvement, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that does. And actually, I'm glad you touched on the experience from depending on who's using it. So could you give an experience of how a speech therapist may use this in their everyday setting or professional setting, how a caregiver may use it, and then the individual?
Yeah, so from a therapist perspective, it's kind of generic. You could create your own account and just use it in session with all of you. I mean, you don't have to have individual patient accounts in your app. You could just have your patient app and use it, and just like, if you have an iPad, you could give it to your patient. You could play games. Like, we have choose games, we have speak games, we have write games, we have drawing games, all kinds of things depending on where your patient is at and where they are in their recovery. But so I'm gonna get in there. So the therapist part of it, though, is what's really exciting for me. That's going to be a new app here, hopefully launched next week. And that's going to be where therapists have their own accounts, right? They can connect with patients that are using the patient app, and they can start assigning homework to these patients, right? And those homework assignments could be in session, they could be out of session, you can use it however you want to, but they're tailored to that particular patient. Therapists can set up their patient settings. Like, so there's difficulties, there's categories, there's all kinds of configurations that on a patient app might be that's why I say caregiver, because right now caregivers are kind of responsible for setting up their loved ones' settings. In this new world with a therapist app, a therapist could potentially configure their patient's settings. So, for example, I only want them to see 3 of these games. There's 10 of them in the app. I only want them to see 3 of them. Because I want them to be focused on this. I don't want them to get lost in the patient app because it might be overwhelming for them. I want them to focus on these 3 games. I want them to be of easy difficulty level, and I want them to focus on, I don't know, an animals category or whatever the case might be, right? And you can really be targeted in your approach as a therapist that way. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, it does. And I'm excited. Did you say next week that you're going to have
that?
No pressure.
Yeah, I'm done with development. I'm kind of in final testing phase right now. I could have launched it if, privacy and security is huge in this. HIPAA compliance, things like that. We're dealing with very sensitive information potentially here. So I wanted to make sure that was under wraps and locked down to make it the most secure and private experience that you could have. So, but
yes, I'm glad that's top of mind, and that's extremely important. So yeah, there's no rush, but it's exciting to hear what's on the horizon. Build apps for millions of users with artificial intelligence, AI, voice recognition, and adaptive learning evolving rapidly. I would love to hear your insight on what do you see is next for assistive communication technology? Where do you see this heading in the next 5 to 10 years?
Sure. I mean, we could have a whole podcast talking about that, right? AI is blowing my mind right now. I mean, we are seeing this accelerate at a pace I don't think we've ever seen in technology. So we are on the exponential curves with this. So I wish I could tell you, but I don't know. I'm speculating, but it's kind of fun to speculate. So personally, I think you're going to see some short-term and long-term things. Short-term's like is basically now, right? So you're seeing generative AI being integrated into all kinds of apps at the moment. I'm using AI in Omilía. There's a chat game that taps into OpenAI. There's a reading comprehension game. All of that is dynamically generated content. It's pretty fascinating. Go and check it out. It's called Read in the app. I'm looking at potentially using it to dynamically generate content in the app. So all of the images, all the sentences, all of the cards essentially could be generated on the fly at runtime. That's a little, I'm not so sure how I feel about that, honestly, because I kind of want to be in control of what users see, especially in this setting. So that's why I'm not like rushing to get that out. I could very easily do it. It's not hard. But I'm kind of like, let's see where this takes us. I think other apps are going to start doing that. They should, or they're going to get left behind, I think, to be honest with you. In the long term, and I think long term is maybe like 2 to 3 years. I mean, crazy to think about. And this sounds weird. It sounds like so sci-fi because the way apps are built, like there's code that you write and it's compiled and packaged and delivered. And then at runtime, the code doesn't change because it's executed, right? I could see a future where there is an app out there that changes. It's like the code is dynamically generated and your app changes based off of the user. I mean, the tech enthusiasts out there would be like, hang me for saying that. This sounds so weird to say that. But yeah, I mean, I could see a future in a speech therapy app like this where you have a diagnostic element at first, right? It gets a baseline of where you're at immediately. And then it goes off and thinks and reasons and says, let's create this experience for this person. And it could look like a lot of different types of games. Like my games in the app are very static. You will always have those games unless I add more. This could be dynamically generated to fit that person. It's a pretty exciting thing to think about. There's also, I'm not as well informed in this area, but Neuralink, that's already out there. I mean, pretty fascinating what Musk is doing there to supplement things. Like I could see when you have a stroke, cuts off blood supply or oxygen supply to the brain, and brain cells die, right? And then you have to basically rebuild neural pathways to make those new connections to regain language. I could see a future where there's something like a Neuralink that is like a prosthetic brain. Like I can't believe I'm saying that out loud, but it's like you plug this in and it's like, oh, there it is. It's like it never left. My language is still there. Crazy to think about.
Yeah, it's so many interesting and fascinating, all of the different things that are happening currently, and then looking forward to the future and the different use cases as well. So I want to find out though, what is it for someone that's watching and really interested in what you've built with Omilía? How would you say that they could support your work or get involved? How could the community get involved with what you're doing?
Thanks for asking. First of all, like and subscribe, right? No, like download the app, right? Go download the app, go check it out for yourself, go share it. If you like it, go share it, leave a review on the App Store, share it with your network. Feedback too. Like I'm always looking for feedback. You can message me directly on LinkedIn. I think there's a link to my LinkedIn profile on this. Is that correct, Jordan?
Yes, yeah, there is. And I'll also include links to the app and to the website and all of those things too.
Yeah. I'm always looking to make it better. I'm only one person. We can really sculpt and reinvent almost speech therapy together, but we have to do it together. There's a big thing when you're working on apps in a corporate setting, you don't want to be working in a silo. It's like, we always want to be collaborative. At least that's my take on it. There are some people who work better in a silo, and I don't agree with that. But you're always better working with other people. Two is better than one. So please, feedback, and we'll make it the best ever, the best that we can make it.
David, thank you for taking the time to be here today and share your wealth of knowledge, sharing your heart, your expertise, and passion for making communication more accessible. Your story is a powerful reminder that technology isn't just about innovation, it's about impact. To everyone listening, thank you for joining us, whether you're a developer, a therapist, caregiver, or a community member that believes in inclusion. Know that every voice matters. The steps we take today to bridge gaps in communication will create a world where no one is left unheard. So let's keep pushing forward together.
Awesome. Thanks, Jordan.